Working as a service assistant in a hospital might sound routine, but after a year and a half of late shifts, I've come to realize this hospital holds some unsettling secrets. I've worked day shifts, evening shifts, and night shifts, and there's no doubt that the strangest things happen after dark. There are two departments everyone on staff dreads, 12 to 3 and 28 to 1. They're both outpatient departments, which means they're usually cleaned late in the evening or at night, and they're notorious for being haunted. My first encounter happened during an evening shift while I was training with another assistant, Morton. It was only my third shift, and we'd split the work to cover more ground. Morton took the busier departments, and I was left with some outpatient areas and one closed-down department, 12 to 3. Morton gave me a warning before I went in. If you hear something in 12 to 3, no you didn't. If you see something, no you didn't. And if you hear anyone calling your name, even if you recognize the voice, leave immediately. Don't look back, just go. His words chilled me, but I tried to shrug them off. As I was cleaning, I suddenly heard a knocking sound from one of the rooms, but I kept my head down, pretending not to notice. If you hear something, no you didn't, right? A few minutes later, just as I was finishing, I heard Morton's voice calling my name, asking for help in Department 14 to 2. But I remembered his warning. I didn't respond. I just calmly left the department, got into the elevator, and paged him. I asked if he'd really called for me. There was silence, and then he said, if I needed help, I'd have paged you. He sounded serious, and told me we'd be leaving 12 to 3 unfinished for the night. To this day, I don't know what's up with 12 to 3, but I've heard strange things in that place too many times since then, and I'd rather avoid it as a staff member and as a patient. That same night, I had to clean Department 12 to 4, right across from 12 to 3. This one's eerie too. Here, part of our job is to check the security cameras every evening, a task that feels strange when you're sitting alone in an empty department. While I was reviewing the footage, I suddenly got chills. Just to lighten the mood, I pulled out my phone and recorded a bit of the footage. But as I played it back, my heart dropped. There was a figure moving in the waiting room. It was blurry, but it was unmistakable. That place was supposed to be empty and locked down for the night. I never showed that video to anyone, but every time I remember it, I can still feel the chills. On another night shift, I had to clean in Department 28 to 1, another outpatient area known for being haunted. It's so eerie that staff avoid it even during the day. After 3 p.m., the doors are locked, and you need a key card and code to get in. There's nothing valuable inside, no medications or equipment, but the doors sometimes open on their own. That night, I went in to clean, with only the dim glow of my phone to keep me company. We don't turn on the lights in the evening shifts to prevent patients from wandering in by mistake. I tried to stay focused by listening to music through my headphones. But then there's room 11. For some reason, no matter how often we clean it, it's never tidy. You'll go in, scrub it spotless, and then when you return, it's a mess again. Papers on the floor, trash scattered, and there's this feeling in the room, this uncomfortable sense that someone is watching you. That night, as I was cleaning, I heard sounds, footsteps echoing down the hallway, objects clattering, and a faint knocking on doors and windows. I was already on edge, but I was determined to finish and leave. Then there's the elevator that opens directly into 28 to 1. Normally, you need both the key card and code to get in. But one night, as I was getting off my shift and waiting in the elevator, the door opened, leading straight into 28 to 1. As I stood there frozen, I heard a voice from inside the darkened hallway. Come right in. I frantically pressed the button to close the door, and finally, it shut. I never mentioned these things to anyone in the service department. It's just one of those things you endure. But now I know one thing. This hospital isn't ordinary. At least not at night. I was with my two friends, Paul and Jay, and we'd managed to scrape enough cash together to split a room at a Motel 6 for the night. We'd been struggling with periods of homelessness, sometimes sticking together, sometimes going it alone. So, Just having a place to sleep, a shower, and a little bit of peace felt like a huge relief. Around midnight, my best friend, who wasn't staying with us, called me up. He wanted to hit the casino and offered to pick me up and even throw me $20 to play. It sounded like a much-needed escape, so I said, "Hell yeah," and started getting ready. When I hopped into the shower, I noticed something odd. The top of the shower curtain was moving. It wasn't like a gentle sway. It looked like someone was tugging on it, pulling it in one direction. I brushed it off, figuring it was just the bathroom fan acting up, and kept showering. Once I was ready, I said goodbye to Paul and Jay and left with my friend. He dropped me back off at the motel early in the morning, probably around 7 or 8. I'd forgotten to grab one of the 2-room keys, so I knocked, expecting Paul or Jay to let me in. But no one answered. I knocked again, but still nothing. Then, as I was about to turn away, I heard Jay's voice from behind the door say, "1 minute." But here's the thing. It wasn't just her voice. There was this second voice, deep and raspy, like it was speaking in unison with her. It sounded unhuman, like a voice layered with something dark and unsettling. For a second, I was just standing there, thinking, what the hell was that? But since I recognized his voice too, I didn't freak out yet. I waited, scrolling on my phone, but after 15 to 20 seconds, there was still no answer. I knocked harder, wondering why they were taking so long. When another minute passed, I walked away, totally confused. I figured maybe they'd gone out or something. But as I looked around the parking lot, I saw Paul's car, and there they were, sitting inside, Paul in the driver's seat and Jay in the passenger seat. I opened the door, about to ask, "What the hell are you guys doing out here?" But Jay cut me off, his face pale. He told me, "Nick, you wouldn't believe what happened last night after you left." According to him, after I'd gone, they'd been relaxing, watching TV. Paul was at the table, and Jay was lying in bed with the covers pulled up to his legs. Out of nowhere, the covers moved, like someone was tucking him in. He screamed, jumping out of bed, which freaked Paul out too. When he told him what happened, they both looked over at the bed and saw an indentation, like someone invisible had just sat down on it. They told me they were both hit with this intense feeling of dread. Paul said it was unlike anything he'd ever felt before, and Jay said it was like the air got heavier, almost suffocating. They couldn't control it. They, without saying a word, grabbed their stuff and bolted to the car, where they spent the rest of the night. As Jay was telling me this, I could feel myself shifting between "that's insane" and "come on, really?" I've had a few strange encounters myself, but nothing that extreme. But then, as he finished, it hit me. I remembered that moment just a few minutes ago, when I'd heard his voice, and that other, twisted, devilish voice, responding to my knocking. When I told them what I'd heard, we all went dead silent, just sitting in that car, staring at the motel room door. When it was time to check out, we didn't waste any time. We did a quick countdown, 1, 2, 3, and opened the door as fast as we could. We grabbed our stuff and practically ran out of that place, not even looking back. To this day, I have no idea what was in that room with them, or who, or what it was that answered me. But I know one thing, I'll never forget that voice.